Do this computer. Okay, great. So, hi everybody in the future. Welcome to our sub-industry spotlight with Molly Phelan. Um, we're going to be talking about property tax day, but I think we're going to be talking about a lot of topics because Molly, I think of you, I think of kind of the ultimate mentor sometimes. I think you're a great person to kick off 2026 with, and we're going to get into a great mindset for the new year, and talk about your career, your path, and advice that you would give to both the scholars on the call and anybody who's watching the recording in the future. But could you start by just saying who you are and your relation to the Goldie Initiative?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm honored to be invited to speak to you today. My name is Molly Phelan, and I am a partner with the law firm of Siegel Jennings. We are a national property tax law firm. I run the Chicago office here. We have offices in Ohio and Pennsylvania, but we represent investors throughout the country on their property tax issues. Um, I'm now I need to start writing down the years that I've been involved with the Goldie Initiative. I'm over 10 years, I think, as a volunteer, close to 10 years, between being a board member, a mentor, and a committee member. I love this organization. It's the best organization that I've ever volunteered with. I love the fact that everybody is solely focused on achieving the goal of bringing more terrific women into the corner offices of commercial real estate, and anything that I can do to help move that agenda forward, I'm happy to do it.
Love it. And before you were doing property tax law for clients across the United States, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So I remember this from second grade, having to remember John Wilkes Booth, who killed Abraham Lincoln. And I'm like, so, out of all the people that have lived on Earth, I only have to remember the presidents or the people who killed the presidents. I'm like, I want to be one of those two. And I'm not really on that John Wilkes Booth angle. So, I actually did really want to be president when I grew up. My father was an attorney, and he actually worked in the U.S. Attorney's office under Bobby Kennedy, and actually was in Bobby Kennedy's office the day that JFK got shot.
Oh,
He worked in at the U.S. Attorney's office. He was going after gangsters and a lot of the stuff that was going on in the 50s and 60s, specifically in Chicago, which was, as a kid, so fascinating to hear about. He never told me he was actually a property tax attorney. He actually switched over to property tax law after his grandfather died, or my grandfather died, and he came over and took over the firm. But he always talked about it from a social justice aspect. So I'm the oldest of four kids. I was the one who was always interested in law. So I went to undergrad to study political science. I studied government and economics and philosophy at Notre Dame. Um, and so that was kind of my basis. I always had a social justice aspect to my
and
vision of what I'd be doing in the future.
and property tax being in your blood.
And there was that, and I'll get to that, as we go through the career question. But no, the last thing I wanted to do when I was in second grade was be a property tax attorney. That sounded like the most boring thing in the world. Like, once I found out what my dad actually did, I'm like, oh, your job's lame. Like, get it. So.
Um, so on that note, what is it? If you could explain in the most basic terms, I know I see the people that are on this call, they're not, most of them are not lawyers. I can't see everybody. I don't think we have any lawyers on the call today. But what is your job? What do you do day to day? If you could explain it in
Sure.
basic terms.
So the overall theme of in a property tax attorney's life is we are representing people who own real estate and fighting the valuation of that real estate against the government. In almost every jurisdiction throughout the United States, if you own real estate, you are taxed on your real estate. And the basis of that taxation is what the county considers the value of
Mhm.
your real estate to be. So it is my job to basically work with the client and work with appraisers to determine if the county's got the valuation right or should the value be lower. And I have a career that I had before going to law school. I was a commercial real estate broker.
Mm.
God bless anybody who is a tenant rep. I have the bunions to prove it. It is a hard slog, um, and takes a lot of work to be successful in that. I was not.
Huh.
However, I did take my CCIM courses. I learned a lot about real estate valuation as a broker. And when I made the transition to property tax law, I had some extra arrows in my quiver that other people didn't. So overall, my job is to fight the government to try to get my clients to pay lower taxes for their real estate.
Wow. And what is something that you wish people knew about the work that you do?
It's not easy.
It doesn't sound easy, not to
No,
me.
it's very interesting. Our profession varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Illinois gets reassessed every 3 to 4 years. Every single property in Illinois gets reassessed every 3 to 4 years. Um, that means that more than likely I have a case every 3 to 4 years. So every property in Cook County, which is where Chicago is, gets reassessed once every 3 years. Outside of Cook County, the properties get reassessed once every 4 years.
Mm.
Depending on how many stimulants the assessor took prior to releasing the valuations, a lot of the times the valuations, especially in Cook County, have increased dramatically. Um, so there's a case for me to go back at. Fortunately, in Illinois, we have a non-litigious route to get this
Mm.
taken care of. I go to the assessor's office or the Board of Review, which is a quasi-judicial board, to argue my cases. And then I can go to the Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board or the Circuit Court. In other jurisdictions, for example, Pennsylvania, it is very difficult to get anything done directly with the assessor. You're going to go to court.
Wow.
And so you have court costs and other legal fees and court reporters and blah, 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 and all that stuff that you have to pay for. So if you come from Illinois, you think it's an easy
Hmm.
process but it's not the same process in other states. In addition to that, I'd say the big difference that I've seen over my career is that it is getting much more difficult for the counties to collect revenue and the cities to collect
Mm.
revenue, and specifically the school boards. The
Hmm.
property tax in Illinois goes to pay our public school system primarily. I am seeing many more interveners, meaning I'm seeing many more attorneys representing the school board coming in and helping the government fight the case against me. So, our evidence where my father did this before, you could normally get most of the stuff resolved at the first or second level. We're going to court more often because the county doesn't want to just give us things. They want to fight harder. So
Right.
it's becoming what I love is that it's combined both of my favorite things, real
Mm.
estate and litigation.
Mm.
So for
That was
me,
going to
it's
be one of my questions for you is how do you feel about litigation and versus not? But you're saying you enjoy it.
I love litigation. When I went to law school, at first, I wanted to be a personal injury attorney because I liked litigation. Doing deals did not seem, sitting at a desk reading contracts, that was not in my wheelhouse. I need interaction with people. I need to think through problems. I need to do presentations. I have skills for that. Um, However, I had this background in real estate that was very useful and very valuable. So the combination of these two things really worked out very well to my benefit.
Yeah. And I'll put you on the spot to look into your crystal ball because you're talking about what's happened, in recent years, but what do you think is going to happen for 2026 if you had to make a prediction on property tax in Cook County or, the United States, I guess?
So, because I look at this nationally, there are a lot of changes that are happening. As I mentioned before, Illinois gets reassessed either every 3 years or every 4 years.
Mhm.
The entire state of Pennsylvania doesn't get reassessed.
Oh my gosh.
If you buy a property, you're going to get that market value on your property. But if you buy an identical property to somebody next door, you're going to pay the market value that you bought in 2026, but they still have the same market value from 1985,
Hmm.
which means that their property taxes are a lot lower than yours are, which is not necessarily fair. So Pennsylvania is looking at doing a reassessment system. So it's really interesting to see that the concept of uniformity is being uh, implemented throughout the United States, which is good.
Mhm.
I think the real estate industry in general is going to start seeing some more momentum. I
Mm.
think the Chicago market has been depressed for, not depressed, but it's not seen a lot of activity over the past 8 years
Mhm.
because we've had an assessor who really does these erratic valuations. I don't think he's going to get reelected next year. I also think we're probably going to have a change in leadership on the mayoral front. And I think Chicago, if we, depending on who we get into office um, in the next 2 years, we will see quite the trajectory with new investment coming into the metropolitan area.
Mm.
And I also think that's the same thing. There are other areas of the country, Columbus, Ohio, they are putting up a ton of multifamily in Columbus,
Mhm.
Ohio.
Mhm.
There are other states that are really doing well. And I think if the interest rates go down, which supposedly they're trending towards, depending on if we go in a recession or not, it seems like the president is, recession or not, it seems like the president is gung-ho on getting the interest rates down. Um, and that would be a boon for real estate investment. I think one of the key issues that we're having in the Chicagoland area, at least on affordability, is that we're doing the only things that can get built now are affordable
Mhm.
housing, and even that's very difficult. So something's got to change across the board because at least on the multifamily, single family side, it's getting to a breaking point.
Yeah. Um, I want to circle back to something we were saying about you knowing your strengths and knowing, to look, being able to look at your strengths and figuring out what part of law you wanted to go into, or, looking at both your real estate background, but also your public speaking strengths and your, relationship building. And as we talk to scholars on this call who are at the beginning and I tell them that they have all these strengths, but sometimes it's hard to piece together their career path or what that next step might or should be for them. So, do you have any thoughts on, navigating and using your strengths to find your path?
Yeah, I think going through this exercise in January in the beginning of the year is a really good thing to do. I think it's really important for people to understand their strengths and their weaknesses. And, just like people do SWOT analysis on companies, you've got to do a SWOT analysis on yourself. And you don't have to share it with anybody, but that's part of you identifying what is going to be the path of least resistance to whatever goal you set for yourself. So there's a couple of things that I would recommend. One is doing the SWOT analysis on yourself. The second one is kind of, what are your goals? What do you want to be? You know, what's your retirement goal? And that seems like so far away for a lot of people on this call, but you want to work backwards from these things because I know it's one of the questions that we're going to get to later, but there's this book called Atomic Habits.
Mm,
And I think it's a great book for helping you set goals. And there's a million books out there. But the one thing that I really took away from this book is that um, you don't know where to go unless you've
mm,
identified the destination, right?
mhm,
And so the analogy that they use is there was a airplane that took off from Chicago and it was flying down to um, what's the main city in Chile? What
Santiago?
somebody, huh?
Santiago?
Santiago, yes. So if the plane takes off and it doesn't check its direction, it could be 2% off when it
Mm,
leaves Chicago. But the story is it ended up flying into a mountain in Antarctica because it didn't figure out that it was 2% off its path, right? And so you want to have your final destination identified, but you always want to come back every single year and say, am I on course or am I off course? Because even if I'm a little off course, I need to push it back. And that's to be able to mark those things all the way back down to, let's say you've got 30 years in your career. Well, do a 15-year goal, do a
mm,
10-year goal, do a 5-year goal, and see how those dots connect. Because the other important thing is, I started off in commercial real estate. I started off as a commercial real estate broker. Actually, went to Spain and taught English right after I graduated from college. Then I worked for Josephinum High School in their development department. Then I got into commercial real estate.
mm,
So the you ladies are all in uh, you know, a graduate program. You've got more of a focus on what you're going to be doing with your careers. But don't be afraid to reevaluate if your goals change.
mhm,
Because I think another thing that I'm very thankful for is that the pressure and the stress of personal injury is not something that I necessarily want to do today.
mm,
I have two young kids. They require a lot of my time. Um, and for those people who work in industries where you have to give up chunks, weeks, months preparing for a trial where you're not home for your family, that's not something that I'd be willing to sacrifice. Other people may be willing to sacrifice it. But I think it's important to allow yourself that freedom to change path.
mhm.
Be true to your goals, but also understand that your final destination can change as you evolve.
Yeah. And I think it's important to have support systems and have groups that you stay involved with. Because if you just go out and you're totally solo and you don't stay involved, you could be going down a path that isn't right or a goal. When you're reassessing, I think, being a part of an association, obviously being involved in the Goldie alumni, you can see opportunities, you can get feedback from kind of trusted confidants. Molly, what has been some particularly either valuable associations you've joined or just commenting on the value of staying involved?
Um, you are building your network now. Um, I I have learned this from my husband, who is a tremendous networker. He has kept a CRM probably since he was in high school, before the word CRM was even like a thing, right? Like he just kept in touch with people. He kept people's information in his phone. He calls people on their birthday. Doesn't send a text, doesn't do the Facebook post, calls. So he's got all of these people in his life that trust him and know him. And if he ever needed something and called them, they'd be like, oh, of course, I'm going to do this for him because I talk to him at least once a year. He's not calling me out of the blue from 15 years ago.
Mm,
And he, more importantly, is always willing to give. And that was one of the big lessons that I had to learn when I was a young attorney, trying to go out and develop business and try to gain some respect in the industry. Um, as a younger associate, you don't necessarily feel like you have a lot to give. And I think the important thing that you guys need to focus on with your mentors right now is understand that that is a two-way street, that your mentors are receiving something from you in that relationship as well. And so what you can do is ask them about what are the things that are keeping you up at night?
mm,
What are some of the issues that you're dealing with? And trying to help them solve those problems because really at the end of the day, what you want to do is create an executive board of corporation, the Molly Corporation, right? Put your team of rivals is another tremendous book.
mm,
Put people around you that are going to give you honest advice that you have a relationship with. Um, I'm going to use another mentor that is very active in the Goldie Initiative, but Bob Six and I met each other through the Goldie Initiative and the Marshall Bennett Institute board. And he is now one of my confidants. If I have an issue, Bob used to be the CEO of Zeller. He and I have a relationship for property taxes, but he also has a consulting group. Now, I
yeah.
go to him. He's probably about 15 years older than I am, has been in the business, knows everybody, but I trust him, he trusts me, and if I have an issue, I can go to him. He's part of my board. Put people around you, and one of the things that people love to do is help other people.
Mm,
If you are a good person, if you are willing to give to others, people will give to you. So just make sure that you're always in that environment. And that's the thing that I love about the Goldie Initiative is that we're all giving to this organization to help others. But I think if you ask anybody who's ever been involved with this organization, you get so much back as well, which is one of the reasons why I love this organization so much. I would be ask other people in your industry what are good organizations
mm,
to be involved with. And the other important thing, even as a young associate, I would recommend getting on a committee. One
mhm,
of the mistakes that I did in my early career was I joined all these associations and I went to all the networking things and blah, blah. And, I spent 5 years and I didn't get any business out of it. And I didn't feel like I really had any good relationships in any of these organizations. Well, it's because I wasn't in a leadership role. Leadership is the most important thing to create trust and getting to know other people. So, despite your jobs, despite the pressures that you're going to be under, don't forget that this is part of what needs to happen for you to achieve your goals in the future.
yeah. Love it. I, and there's so many organizations that want great volunteers. They would love everybody on this call, even like, 1% of your time, because you guys are really top tier people. They would value that a lot. So it's not as maybe intimidating as you think. Once you're on it, it all comes together.
Yeah.
Um, I am gonna turn it over to the scholars and a couple alumni on here in just a couple minutes. So I would appreciate if everyone on the call would think about your questions. But as you alluded to, Molly, I'm going to ask favorite books, podcasts, etc., that you recommend, and I'll add it to my list.
Yeah. So when I am in the car, and have a couple minutes to myself, I can't listen to any more business stuff. Like I need to do something stupid. So my stupid podcast is Smartless. It's the Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and forgot the other guy's name, but that's my stupid one. Other than that, I either listen to audiobooks or read business development books or management books. So like I said, I had really given you guys my two
Mm.
best ones. Team of Rivals it's a thick book. And it's very historical. So it's not really something that everybody wants to read, but us legal nerds like it. Which basically, but the story is good. The theory is good that you want a lot of people, different types of people with different mindsets around you to be able to do really impressive things. So I think for that reason, Team of Rivals is a great book. And again, Atomic Habits um, is a wonderful book to help you achieve the goals that you set forth.
Love it. And I don't know if you've been talking to Shreya recently, but I went to her house and now I'm realizing I saw a Team of Rivals on her couch.
Oh, okay.
So
I
you
didn't
can
know. Oh, that's cool. Nice.
next time you see her. So a double recommended book. I did. It is a thick book, and I was like,
Yeah.
Shreya, what's this casual read with Abraham Lincoln on the front? Like what? We just read different books, but maybe I'll have to try it.
Yeah.
Um,
There's one point that I want to make,
yeah.
and I've said this at a lot of other scholar retreats, so pardon me if anybody's heard this before, but while you are a scholar, it's equally as important for alums, but while you are a scholar, take advantage of everything that is given to you. Take advantage. Is it still called Rocket Mentorship or
Yeah.
okay,
Goldie Connect, yeah.
the Goldie Connect? People will take your phone call, they will make a meeting with you, they will give you any type of introduction that you ask for. I think one of the important things that I didn't really go over in my career development was when I wanted to get into commercial real estate, I'd already been out of school for 3 or 4 years and was trying to get a job. And I went to the one person that I knew in commercial real estate, and he basically said, well, you don't have a finance degree. We really hire people with finance degrees, but I'll introduce you to three other people who might have a
Mm.
job at their place. I went through that exercise 3 times before I got my job. So let that be the lesson. The first person, first off, you have probably some of the most influential people in commercial real estate at your fingertips through the Goldie Initiative. Any person that you contact wants to help you specifically while you're a scholar. So contact them, use the opportunity to do an informational interview where you just reach out to them and say, I would like to learn more about your business. And if there is an opportunity to work with your company, could you please let me know? Or if you think there's another organization that I should speak to that would be interested in hiring somebody like me, could you make that introduction for me? You will get a yes to one of those two questions. And you just have to keep playing that card over and over again. And that's why it's so important for you to put that goal in front
Mm.
of yourself because it may not seem like a step in the right direction at first, but you will always have the opportunity to pivot and move forward. And I think it's really impressive to speak to a young professional and say, this is my goal. This is my 10-year goal. This is what I want. Because that tells the person that you're speaking to, I'm serious about what I want to do. I'm focused. I'm dedicated. And I'm willing to learn more about what you have to offer in terms of the industry. Um, and our goals can align. because your goal is to have a successful business. My goal is to have a successful career.
Yeah, we're going towards the same place. And I mean, I hope you all know this, but being a Goldie Scholar and being a student hand in hand give you a really easy extra credit into like all these conversations. It's hard to say no to that, to students and people who are worth their salt will talk to you and completely continue the networking chain. So thank you, Molly, for covering that and making sure we got to it.
Sure.
Because that's the real Molly soapbox that we need to
Yeah.
share.
I mean, when I got involved with this organization and I met Goldie and she goes, well, why do you want to be part of this organization? I'm like, I want to be part of this organization because I wish this organization was around 15 years ago when I was coming up through this. Like, it's such a tremendous resource for the young women in this organization, and just don't squander it because,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's it,
It's life changing.
it's invaluable. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any questions from the group?
I have a question.
Is that Daniela?
It's Becky.
Oh, it's Becky. Sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
can you not see me?
No, no, no.
Sorry.
I'm just finding you in my thing. I'm gonna
I
add
had
you.
to like step out and apologies for not being super professional here.
No.
Molly, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to the group today. I've heard you speak on several occasions and you're a rock star, so thank you.
Thank you.
Um, I am going to pivot a little bit and ask as a property owner and operator and investor in Cook County, I'm going to pivot a little bit and ask you to maybe speak a little bit about the elections that
Mhm.
seem to be happening, I believe, at the Board of Review level. Am I correct about that? And
So,
kind of
sure.
what's going on there,
Uh,
since that's property taxes are always on the top of
yeah.
every owner's mind here, and it's challenging.
So I will say that I've been doing this since 2005, and I've seen dramatic changes in terms of how this works. Typically, what had happened prior to Kagi getting into office, you could kind of assume that when a reassessment came, that you were going to get like 25-35% increase in your market value. And then, you know, you hire me, we fight it, and we're going to get someplace back between a 0% increase, maybe even a reduction if you use somebody else before. But you were always going to get something that was reasonable and a little bit more predictable than how it's been for the past 8 years since Kagi came in. Kagi came in from a banking background and uses investment value, which is not the correct format or the correct theory of valuation to use. It's fee simple. Fee simple means the bricks and sticks. Investment value, which is what banks look at, is how much is the property generating in terms of revenue. And so that has been a huge problem in terms of where the assessor starts his valuation. Um, so to talk about the assessor's race, there is a man named Pat Hines who is running against Kagi in the Democratic uh, race. Those of you who are in Cook County probably know this. Those of you who are not from Cook County probably don't know this. The only election that really matters in Cook County is the Democratic primary because the Democrats will win one way or the other. That's just the way the voting goes. So we haven't had a Republican president of the Cook County Board since the 90s. I don't think we've ever had a Republican assessor. So anyway, the Democratic primary is the important race. Katie is running against Pat Hines. Pat Hines used to be a employee of the Cook County Assessor's Office.
Hmm.
He knows valuation. He is currently the Lyons Township Assessor. Um, I've spoken to him on numerous occasions, and it appears that his theory of valuation is more towards the fee simple traditional valuation model. So I think for investors in Cook County, as I said earlier, the opportunity to invest with a little bit more predictability is going to be available if he gets elected. Then there's the Board of Review. The Board of Review has three members, and you vote for each member based on your geography within Cook County. Basically, there's a North Side Commissioner, West Side Commissioner, and South Side Commissioner of the county. Larry Rogers has been in office since I started working. I don't think he's ever going to have a competitor who could kick him out of office. He'll retire when he wants to. Um, the West Side is Alderman Cardenas now. Something happened where I don't even know if he's on the ballot right now because I think he screwed up his petitions to get on the ballot. So I can actually email you and give you a little bit more information on that because I actually don't know what's happening in that race right now.
Hmm.
By the way, I've run for office. Anybody who doesn't have enough signatures had a horrible campaign manager because you know that you're supposed to get 3 times your signatures and he didn't get enough signatures. So I don't know what happened there. And then on the north side, we have a race between Samantha Steele and Heather Thompson, I think her name is. So two women on the north side. Samantha Steele, I don't want to use this platform to really get too political, but she has been reelected once or twice. And then the competitor, the new candidate, has done a lot of lobbying work and fundraising work. The new candidate seems to be a little bit more in tune with the needs of commercial investors. I think she does have some Republican backing, which to me only means that she has more business backing than Samantha Steele does. And so as an institutional investor, she might be a candidate that you would be interested in supporting. My hope is that we get back to an era that we had before because the Board of Review used to not worry about the political fallout. And I think the narrative that's going on right now in Cook County is that everybody's passing the buck as to why homeowner property taxes are going up. And they think it's because the commercial investors are getting a deal. Well, they're not, because actually, if you have $1 million home and $1 million property, the home is only valued at $100,000 because they have a 10% level of assessment, where the commercial property is valued at $250,000 because commercial properties have a 25% assessed value level of assessment. So the narrative is really screwed up. It's a little too complicated for the average person to understand. And it is getting more litigious than it had been in the past, but I am hopeful that it will be more predictable after the new election cycle. So again, if you want to do this one-on-one, I'm happy to give you some other stuff. I don't want to
No,
get too
thank you.
political.
That's actually really helpful because it is a complicated situation to understand, but it has a massive impact on owners and investors. And it's always interesting to navigate, what goes on. So thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate that.
And quite frankly, that's the other reason why I like it, because I was a poli-sci major. Like, I do like the political aspects of doing this, which is another reason why it's a good fit for me, but that's not really everybody else's.
No, great. Thank you. Thank you. Really
Thanks.
helpful explanation.
Thanks, Becky. Any other questions? Tax or career related?
Yeah, I had a question. Hey, Molly, it's great to see you.
Let's see.
Who is that? I don't see it.
Oh, it's Mika. Yep, I'm
Oh,
good.
hey. Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you. This was really awesome to hear. Thanks for spending the time with us today. when you were talking about building your bench and keeping in touch with mentors or guides, that was something that really resonated with me. I was wondering if you had any sort of tips and tricks for staying in touch with people that you might not see on a daily basis. You gave the great example with your husband, but what are some other ways that we could try and nurture those relationships over time?
So, keep a CRM, keep the birthdays, keep like information on their family, like how many kids they have, because people always love to talk about their kids or their family, their parents, siblings, whomever, the dogs and cats, like keep information about people, that stuff. One of the things that I do if I meet somebody who I think is going to be a good prospect as in terms of a client, I will try to take notes on the conversation that we had. And if they like skiing for some odd reason, or if they like knitting, I'll set a Google alert to give me skiing articles or knitting articles or whatever. And usually, you'll have like a group of people who all kind of like the same thing. So you're like, oh, hey, I saw this article about knitting. Thought of you, thought you'd like it. There you go. It's such a simple thing to just send that email and say, was thinking of you, thought you'd like this article. My grandmother used to do that when I was in college. She'd cut out the little articles and send it to me. Like it was just so sweet, right? That's all you're doing. You're just telling somebody that you're thinking about them. The article could suck, but you cared enough to, send a message. Um, and then I think one of the other things that I struggled with professionally early and being a woman,
Hmm.
who, I exercise, I try to stay healthy, I try to watch what I eat. So I would regularly skip lunch at work and I
Hmm.
would not go out to lunch with the guys, right? Who are all out getting sandwiches and, eating stuff that I would never eat on a regular basis. But um, go into the office, build relationships. B, go out to lunch with people. And if you're not going to go out to lunch with people from work, make sure, like, literally go out to lunch every day. It may cost money. I don't know if your firm would reimburse you for it, but go out and either have lunch or have coffee with somebody once a day. It's good to give your mind a break and get away from the desk, but it will help you build relationships. And the other thing is, if somebody asks you to go to lunch at work, say yes, because they will only ask you maybe once or twice. And if you
Hmm.
say no both times, they won't ask you anymore because they just assume you're that person who always eats lunch at their desk. So we're not going to ask you anymore. Don't take yourself out of those opportunities. Um, and then I think really just killing multiple birds with one stone. Organize a lunch. Maybe organize a lunch with 4 or 5 people on a Friday. Do it once a month. Get a nice reservation at some not a super fancy place, but like a decent lunch place where you all can sit down for an hour. It's on everybody's calendar, a couple weeks out. And then you also are seen as the leader to do
Hmm.
that, right? Like you're the one, and then now people are going to come to you when they need something, and that's a good place to be.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. That's great.
Sure.
Um, and let's see, let me remove your spotlight. I put in the chat a couple of resources that I was thinking about as you were talking. One is a Google Sheet template that if you guys know Scala, she made a template for your own personal CRM. It's just Google Sheet for you to put names and notes about people as you go on, but if you haven't started one yet, it's a great place to start. And then I also put a PDF that Rob Nasso sent me, or one of our board members, Never Eat Alone. And it's a cheat sheet of practicing networking and that exact concept of never eating alone. It's still on my to-do list to email it out to more people. But
Yes.
um,
Yes. And by the way, I thoroughly stole that from Never Eat Alone, by the way.
okay.
Like that was not my intuition. That
Is
was one of the things that I read that I needed to.
is Never Eat Alone? I don't really know what it is. Is it a book or is it just a? mindset that someone
I
wrote?
think it's a very thin
Okay,
book. Like it's not a big read.
gotcha. Rob had sent me what I put in the chat is a like 2-page, 3-page PDF that highlights
Okay.
the learnings there. So check it out, you guys. Other questions? I might pick on somebody. I was like, I feel Layla, I feel like you got a question. Oh, Jen, you'll be next, Jen. I won't, we'll go to you.
Hi,
But
Molly. And thank you
Hi.
for your time today. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So you mentioned that a big part of why you got into what you're doing is because you love presenting. That's something that I am going to be forced to do here in the near future for one of my classes, where I have to present a business strategy for commercial real estate. So any recommendations on how you developed your presenting skills, maybe particular to real estate or just, in general?
I think it's really important to be passionate about what you're presenting.
mm,
And if you can focus on your excitement and passion on what you're presenting and come to it through that perspective of, I am here and I want everybody to know how amazing this is. Your energy will draw attention. Um, and then you'll be able to share your knowledge as well. So it gives you a platform. I think one of the things that's really, really important is to always try to understand your audience. And typically what we didn't do today, and shame on me, but I don't have a clear background on who everybody is on this call. I can't see everybody. I don't know everybody. Um, One of the things that I do when I'm doing my presentation is I try to get a clear understanding of who I'm presenting to. Because what you don't want to do is present information that is not going to hit the mark with your audience. So there's that. Um, Bring the excitement, bring the passion, and bring the confidence. I think women who are not used to presenting often feel a little hesitant and kind of do the ums and ahs. Do your practice, do your practice presentation in the mirror, have your confidence, stand up straight, put on something nice, and, you know, just go in there with the confidence. And as long as you have the confidence, it will sell. Also, be careful about your arena of presentation. If it's a one-on-one, if it's a Zoom, if it's, what it is, make sure that you've got your arena set the way you want it and you know the quirks of it. Um, it drives me nuts
mm,
when I'm on a business call and somebody's got like a picture of a cat behind them. I'm like, come on, like this is a professional setting here, like I don't want to see that. Um, Present yourself in the way that you want people to see you, be very detailed on that. And so is this a presentation for your class or is this a presentation for, give me a little bit more insight on what it is.
Yeah, so it's a real estate entrepreneurship class. The whole objective of the class is by the end of the quarter, week 10, to be able to present an investment opportunity in front of potential investors. So our professors bringing in, real investors or real people from
wow.
the outside world who could potentially take interest in our innovative idea of how to combine real estate with some other concept, be it like healthcare or tech or, some other idea.
Okay. The other thing that I would do is just make sure that um, put yourself in the mind of the audience and
Mhm.
think about what questions they're going to ask
Yeah.
and try to make that those clear points in your presentation. Because obviously, you hope that there's follow-up questions. You just don't want to lay the microphone down and walk out. You want people to be engaged. And I always think that that's really a great presentation too, where you open up the door to everybody and say, feel free to interrupt me and ask questions or for clarifications, because then you can
Mm,
really get a sense of what the temperature of the room is by the type of questions that you're asking
That
yeah.
makes perfect
or
sense.
they're asking, pardon me.
Yeah, Layla, I'd love to talk more offline too, because I love Molly and I have this in common. put microphones in our hands, and I think we're good to go. But I think a couple tips I have. I love that when you were describing this class, you used a hand motion of like the whole point of the entire class is at the end we do this. And I think that's a next level way of presenting is using the space in the room. That's always good, but practice, practice, practice because that is what gives you confidence. And also, I would say to everybody, give yourself grace. Like, if you say ums and ahs, just keep moving. Nobody
Yeah.
cares, like they care more that you're passionate, as Molly said, about your idea and your plan. And then my final tip is that people can only remember so many things, right? So think about the top three things you want people to remember. You could tell them at the beginning, you talk about it during the thing, and then at the end, you repeat it, and then they understand what you've been talking about.
And I have one little tip for energy. Um, if your space allows it, sit quietly by yourself and build that energy in yourself. Feel your energy come up, feel your aura change, feel that energy field around you build because literally you will levitate into that room when you have that energy and confidence and you sit with yourself for 5 minutes and tell yourself how well you're going to crush that presentation. And if you can give yourself those 5 minutes before you walk in, you'll nail it.
Agreed. And
Okay.
Shilin, I'm gonna pin you to this conversation. Can I do that? Maybe I can't do that to many. Remove spotlight. Shilin, would you like to add to this Northwestern presentation question?
No, no, Layla will connect because it was very obvious which class it is.
Yeah.
You'll do great. And I do have a question for Molly.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Happy New Year. Great to
Happy New
see you
Year.
and enjoy your presentation here. So you I also didn't know that you were a commercial broker before this. So thing, one more thing that you do, but wanted to hear your thoughts on how you kind of prioritize because we see you everywhere you're presenting at BizNow and all these different platforms and you obviously dedicating your time to, for example, the Goldie initiatives. Like, how do you first of all decide what organizations to be involved in, and then second, what among these so many opportunities, how do you kind of prioritize since obviously you also have your job to do?
And your
Yep.
family? Great
Yeah.
question.
Ah,
Um, so I started doing a lot of networking and a lot of presenting before I was married and before I had kids. So that was always something that I had done. And because I had flexibility in my schedule, because I didn't necessarily have other responsibilities, I started this. So it's kind of second nature to me to do the presentations. Now, the BizNow stuff, that's for my job. Like my company wants me going out and doing that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's taking away. I will say for other people who are not put in a outward facing role from their organization, it's still very important to do those types of networking events and taking opportunities to present. Um, it gives you credibility in the marketplace and it also elevates your ability to think on your feet as well. So take those opportunities. Even if you don't think that you are a natural presenter, if somebody wants you to go to ULI or wherever to do a presentation, take that opportunity. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Um, I will say that I learned my lesson. 2 years ago, I was the managing partner, the managing operations person for Chicago. I had the largest docket for the Chicago firm, and I was also doing business development. And then I had my kids who do a million different travel sports, and my husband also works full time and travels for his work. I was burned out after that year. It was not good. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't a total flame out, but like I was definitely at my wit's end in terms of having the most responsibility in all three columns for the Chicago firm. And so I talked to, our leadership team and I said, I can't do all of this, And so the day-to-day managerial stuff of our staff, that was given to our chief paralegal.
Hmm.
Great. Because I always went to her with my questions anyways. It's like, let's just cut out the middleman who's me and give that to her. Um, we reassigned my docket where I kept my important clients and kind of the lower dollar value clients. I was still kept on the communication, but I dropped some of my clients to one of my associates. And that really allowed me to focus on my strength of doing litigation and doing presentations and business development. So I think what'll happen is you will get to that point in your career. I think right now, when you're starting off, you want to take as many opportunities and use your spare time productively. Um, don't forget to take time for yourself, do your exercises, keep your groups of friends and family and stuff like that. But take your time to really focus on taking advantage of opportunities. And then as all of that comes to a head, you will be able to look at, take every single year, take the opportunity to say, what are my responsibilities? What am I good at? And there's that 80-20% rule. If you're spending 80% of the time on something that you don't like, and you're only spending 20% of your time on the stuff that you're really good at, go back to your manager and say, listen, I'm doing this 80% of my time. I don't necessarily like doing all of this stuff. Can we switch it? Can I do this 20%, 80% of my time and switch it? So again, they want to see you use your talents. They probably see your talents as well, but they're probably so overwhelmed that they don't know how to move the chess pieces around, right? So come to them with solutions on these things to be able to achieve that 80% that you want to spend your day on.
Yeah. We're basically out of time, but I'm sorry, Jen, I've accidentally passed you over on your question. So I hope it's kind of a quick question. I hope, Molly, you have another minute or
Sure.
two to answer it. So Jen,
Yep.
I'm gonna pin you as well.
Yes. Sorry, it's gonna be really quick. I only have like a straightforward technical question based on your day-to-day work.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you work with appraisers and kind of like to debate with the counties to see like if their valuation is overvalued. So I wonder like when you compare an assessor's valuation to market-based valuation with your appraiser, like where do you most often see the two diverge and what evidence is most effective in closing that gap or convince the county that the buildings is value less than they assessed?
Sure. So we work with several different appraisers. There are some appraisers that are better at a certain type of property than others. We do data centers, we do power plants, we do hotels, we do stadiums, we do literally anything that is bricks and land, we will represent. And you need to know what appraiser is the best one there. The main thing that we're focusing on right now is working with the appraisers prior to the issuance of their final report that we submit to make sure that there's no holes in the evidence, that we've done the research on the comparables that they're using. And we want to make sure that we're hiring appraisers that we can put on the witness stand because the
Mm.
stronger your case is in the beginning, the more likely they're going to resolve it either at the first level or the second level because they don't want to lose at the third level, right? So I think where before people in my industry would just send the appraiser some information, get an appraisal back, throw it at the assessor's office or the board of review. For the larger properties, it is really, really important to drill down on every single issue prior to getting the final report and submitting it at the assessor's office. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yes, it is. So it's more like a time sequence difference. So it's not like the assessor published their report and you come back to them and debate, hey, you're overvalued or
Typically, you have 30 days to file your appeal once the assessor publishes the information. However, you're never going to get that done, what I need to do in 30 days. So what I'm doing right now is I'm contacting, January 1st is the lien date for your property taxes for the valuation. So I'm looking at all the information from 2025 and earlier. Um, I'm doing my work now before the assessor even releases their data
Mm.
because I need to tell my client day one if there's a case or if there's not a case. And to be able to really put together a good case without discussing it prior to the release, you're at least missing that opportunity at the assessor's office. Now, I will say the Cook County assessor has not necessarily been that great in terms of giving a reduction in the first place. So to have other things that occur prior to arguing at the Board of Review, that's totally acceptable. But we like to do a lot of hard work prior to getting the appraisals finalized from the appraisers.
got you. Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
I actually have more follow-up questions, but would you mind if I send you an email about
Yeah, Kelsey, if you
Yeah.
could put my email and my cell phone number in the
Yeah.
chat or send it to whoever, I'm happy to have one-offs in regards to any subject with everybody who was kind enough to take their time today.
Yeah. And thank you, Jen, for asking the technical tax question because I wasn't sure. We're gonna have people wondering about taxes, but taxes and death, right, Molly? That's
Yep.
the life. Well, thank you to everyone who came and showed up, and thank you, Molly, so much for sharing your wisdom and your advice as always with Goldie Scholars.
Thank you for the opportunity. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Feel
Bye,
free to reach
everybody.
out. Thanks,
Thank
Kelsey.
you.
Bye-bye.
I guess.
Bye.